Joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, thanks so much for being here. You've been very vocal about this Kavanaugh circus. So how is this political division, the acrimony, now this aggression over the nomination, fueled some of these perhaps increasingly dangerous situations?
Well, Laura, the Democrats will stop at nothing to defeat Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. They're not doing that because of the allegations that they've trotted out over the last 2 weeks. They're doing it because they don't want to have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And that's why you've seen some of the most outlandish, wild-eyed claims rolled out with immediate demands that he withdraw. He's not withdrawing. We're voting on him. Everybody will have to put their cards on the table before God and country later this week. Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed because the more we learn, I suspect the FBI investigation will simply corroborate this. His denials are the things that are supported by evidence, not the allegations against him.
Senator, the security in the Senate seems to me to be a bit of an issue when you can have people, clearly this is all orchestrated and planned, they had the cameras all ready to go, and they work for Soros's Center for Democracy, co-executive director, was the one who was shouting most in the beginning. They corner Flake, and Flake's like melting, and he's like, he needs a pair of Depends or something. It's not a deal with like two women yelling at him. And he's like, no, don't do it. And they're screaming at him. And I don't know if they stood in the elevator, but they couldn't get out of I was like stuck in the elevator. Is this now going to incentivize other such organized protesters to do the same thing? Then they get their moment of viral shame.
Laura, you're right that a lot of these protesters are professional left-wing activists at D.C. community organizing groups or even Democratic staffers. They're yelling and screaming in the hallways. They're stalking senators, not just in the Senate, but at airports and even to their homes. The young staffers in Susan Collins' offices have received death threats and rape threats. They walk around disrupting business in the Senate. This is a result in part of the kind of wild-eyed radical claims that Democrats have made about Brett Kavanaugh from the very beginning. And remember, Laura, it wasn't that long ago when a madman, a former Bernie Sanders supporter, showed up at a baseball field in Alexandria to commit mass murder against congressional Republicans. Thankfully, Capitol Hill police officers were there because Steve Scalise were present, and they were able to neutralize that threat, but not before Steve Scalise was badly wounded and still walks on crutches to this day because of it. So I think some of our Democratic colleagues need to reconsider their rhetoric and the kind of incentives that they're giving to people that, frankly, are a little bit around the bend.
Senator, 3 takeaways from Christine Ford's ex-boyfriend, and again, it's an ex-boyfriend, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. Obtained by Fox News tonight. Blasey Ford helped prepare a friend to take a polygraph test. I don't know if she fancies herself something of an expert in polygraphs, but she had that history. Apparently she had no fear of flying in small airplanes, a number of trips that he was, I guess, on with her or aware of, and she had no aversion to tight or closed spaces. She claimed that she had become claustrophobic because of this event 36 years ago. There were other comments of a sexual nature that I'd rather not get into, but he was never told about her assault in any way, shape, or form. And anyway, I don't want to talk about more of the sexual stuff, but there's that out there as well.
Yeah, Laura, so I haven't seen that letter. I only heard you reporting on it earlier. I will say this, I assume the FBI will consider that matter. I also assume the FBI will seek the therapist notes that Ms. Ford cited as corroborating evidence from 2012. Nobody's seen those yet. She refused to turn them over to the Senate Judiciary Committee. What little we do know comes from Washington Post reporting. If anything, it is exculpatory for Brett Kavanaugh. It corroborates his account and creates internal inconsistencies in Ms. Ford's account. So I hope the FBI has had a chance to review those therapist notes as part of their supplemental background check.
Senator, your prediction, will he get confirmed?
Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed to the Supreme Court later this week. It'll be a majority. I hope that it's a bipartisan majority. I hope many of the senators last week that went over the top in their rhetoric will reconsider what they said, recognize that even though they lost the election, even though a Republican president is appointing a justice of his choice and being confirmed by a Republican majority Senate, that they need, for the long-term health of the Senate and the Supreme Court, to reconsider their rhetoric about the legitimacy of this process. If anything, Chuck Grassley, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump have bent over backwards to be transparent and provide all the information that's necessary to prove that Brett Kavanaugh is both highly qualified and that there's no corroboration or proof for any of the allegations against him.
Senator Tom Cotton, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And Kavanaugh's accusers, and